people are people and kids are kids. And I can tell you, kids love parental attention.
Hi, and welcome to Healthier Family Relationship. I am Lady Paul, your host. I am so excited to have today our guest speaker. His name is Larry Waldman. The question is, how can parents be effective manager?
Well, it's actually fairly simple. Behavior therapy is simple to understand. It's difficult to implement. On the other hand, when we talk about psychoanalytic theory, it's very difficult to understand, but it's basically simple to administer. So back to behavior therapy. What we're talking about is making parents very aware on a behavioral basis of what are the consequences of the child's behavior. To be able to look a little more objectively at their child's behavior and then learn to provide appropriate responses to that behavior. The responses typically are either reward or possibly punishment of some sort, or no consequence at all. We call that extinction, like ignoring, if you will. So by using these three sets of consequences in a judicious manner, in a kind of a scientific manner, parents can, believe me, really regulate their children's behavior. The problem is, of course, is very few parents are trained. And so most parents are parenting, if you will, by the seat of their pants. And so they say and do whatever feels good at the moment, and it may have nothing to do with what they said or did yesterday, and will have nothing to do with what they say and do tomorrow. So it's very inconsistent, if you will. And in fact, what often happens is actually the reverse of the philosophy is actually put into action. I'll give you a good example. Ideally, what we would like is we would want parents to provide their time and attention immediately following their children's good behavior. By doing that, of course, that teaches the child that it pays off to be good.
Yes.
Well, truth is, in many homes, that when the child is behaving appropriately, they're minding their own business, or maybe they're coloring nicely, or playing with their sibling, at least not beating each other up or something. The parent looks at that, recognizes that things are quiet, but then I call it using kind of the sleeping dog philosophy, is that if it's okay, if they're quiet, leave it alone.
Yes.
So what ultimately happens is that the children learn that when they follow the rules and when they behave appropriately, they get little or no attention from their mom or dad. Now, as soon as something happens, let's say the kids start arguing or wrestling or whatever, or as soon as the kid starts acting up in one way or another, and so forth, what do the parents do? Well, they react. And so what the child quickly learns is that if I want my parents' time and attention, which believe me, every child does until they become a preteen, then they would rather be gone altogether. But until then, but see, things by 12 are pretty well set, unfortunately. So until then, they want their parents' time and attention. And what they learn is the best way to get that time and attention is not to behave, but to misbehave. And truth be told, many parents teach their children that lesson. It's the opposite one. You want them to learn.
Yes.
So it's not the kids' fault many times, it's the parents. In my practice of 40 years, I had a lot of parents come in, into my office complaining, that their child just isn't learning and isn't behaving, and et cetera, et cetera. And they wanted to know what I was going to do about it. And more often than not, the people that I worked with was not the child, but mom and dad. And once I trained mom and dad how to manage the child's behavior, then they could do the changing in the home. There wasn't that much I could do in a 1-hour counseling session with a 10-year-old, twice a month. The parents have day-to-day contact with the child, and if they can implement appropriate behavioral therapy, they can make wholesale changes in the child's behavior.
Yes, definitely. And the first time that we talked together, I did try. And I said that, okay, Dr. Larry said that to give, to give time and attention when the child behave, so they can, be encouraged and keep doing it. And my sons were playing outside nicely. Usually I'm not going to bother them. I'm saying, okay, they're nicely playing together. I'm not going to do much. And I said, okay, why not? And I went outside and I said, wow, boys, you are playing together nicely with your cars. What is your game? And I was, chatting with them. And they were talking back to me, smiling and so proud of themselves. And then there is no argument at all, like for the remaining of the afternoon. And I said to my husband, look at that, it works.
In fact, you could have sealed the deal that when they came in, and said, guys, I was so pleased with how well that you played with each other and cooperated and shared, and there was no arguing and no yelling. Let's have a treat, or let's go to the park, or let's put on a video, or something like that as an additional reinforcement, for that behavior.
Now we need to acknowledge and encourage good behavior more than bad behavior. And I noticed that they wanted to play the game again. And I say, Mommy, look, we are playing, we are playing.
See,
we love that.
They're looking for the attention. Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah, see, parents have this mistaken idea that you've got to be on the lookout for the bad stuff. No, what you want to do is be on the lookout for the good stuff. And when you see that good behavior, that's when you pounce. That's when you react. That's when you spend your time and attention. And the idea is, of course, if the children are getting the attention they deserve and they want for being good, then there's less of a need to do it for being bad. Many families are locked into what I refer to in my books as the negative attention cycle. And this gets to this notion of how both kids influence parents and parents influence kids. And that is, both have expectations. The parent expects the child to misbehave, because that's what they do most of the time. So they're ready for it and are very reactive to it. The child, on the other hand, has already learned that the only time they're going to get any attention is when they misbehave. So they might as well do it, because bad attention is better than no attention at all. Besides which, how does the child know any better? It's not like they've read any psychology textbooks. As far as they're concerned, what's going on in the house is supposed to be going on in the house. They don't know if it's good, bad, or indifferent. So they then will, again, act out because they know it gets the parents' attention. We've all seen kids do that, where they do things I remember when one of my kids, I forget which one of them, they knew that if they went and messed with my, stereo system, and they would look like, Dad, are you watching? I'm about to touch it, and so on, but I would just simply walk out of the room, and then it was like, well, gosh, what fun is this if I play with the dial, but Dad isn't even there to see it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So you see, I'm not attending to the inappropriate, I'm attending to the appropriate.
Yes,